Hey everybody, mel0n here. Welcome back to another video. And today I'm very excited because we're talking about probably one of the most unique products I think I've ever gotten my hands on during my time as a peripheral reviewer. We are talking about the SoSpacer Grips. Now, if you want to see my first impressions and unboxing of these, you can go ahead and watch my unboxing video I put out a couple weeks ago. But for now, today we're taking a deep dive on how these work, why these grips are so great, and why you should probably try them out over your traditional grip tape you may or may not have on your mice right now. So let's get right into it. And just a quick disclaimer here, SoSpacer did send these out for review, so thank you very much to them. But as per usual, even though they have supplied them, it's not going to affect my overall opinions on the product. Again, if the product's bad, I'm going to tell you they're bad. And if you're looking for a specific topic, like how to install them or how they work with specific grip types and that kind of stuff, I will have timestamps in the comments and pinned down in the description for you guys as well, so you can go ahead and check that out. Alrighty, so let's talk about pricing. So you can get 3 sets of the SoSpacer grips. That's going to be 3 left ones and 3 right-sided ones for around 14 Canadian dollars tax in. Now I think that goes down to like $10 and $11 in USD or Freedom dollars depending on where you are, but they do have distributors in other countries. So if you are interested in checking these out and you don't live in Canada or the United States, go ahead and check your preferred peripheral retailer and they may have some in stock for you. You can purchase these in blue, black, red, pink, and white colors of whatever you would like. They look really nice too as well. The color is very bright, so they look really nice as a nice contrasting color on whatever mouse you put them on depending on the color. And the huge benefit to the SoSpacer grips as opposed to traditional grip tape or universal grip tape is that they are compatible with every single mouse in existence, even ones that don't have grip tape made for them, even ones that don't fit universal tapes, even those really crazy 3D printed like skeleton shell mice, you can put SoSpacer grips on them, which is really cool. So they are compatible with everything under the sun. Now for my testing purposes, I tested these on my Cont M3 Mini, I tested them on my HyperX Pulsefire Haze 2 and my Death Adder V3 Wired Edition. I'm going to test them on some other ones going forward for some other uniquer grips, but I figured I'd get a video up of just basic stuff now, and I'll make another follow-up video a little bit depending on how my testing goes. So I guess the big question here is, why are these better than traditional grip tape? And that is going to be heavily dependent on your grip style and how you hold your mouse. And of course, that's the name of the game for pretty much everything, but specifically the SoSpacer grips. So for me personally, I do, because again, I go through a lot of mice. I change my mouse at least probably twice a month at this point with how many products are releasing as of late. And I have a bit of an issue with adapting to new mice. So if I'm going from a very tiny mouse like the Cont M3 Mini here to the Death Adder V3, there's a bit of a learning period there, of course, and my hand does have a lot of strain issues from that, especially from holding unique shapes that I'm not used to and just kind of changing things up a lot. I do get a lot of hand strain from what I'm doing. Now, of course, that is a more of a me problem. Of course, that not everyone's changing their mouse every 2 weeks, so it's going to be a little bit of an isolated problem to me. But I have noticed that the SoSpacer grips help significantly in terms of keeping a consistent and ergonomic grip on whatever mouse you're using, which has been a godsend for me. Now, for the normal use case of you just have one mouse and you just want one set for your one mouse to use, the biggest benefits you're going to have is that you are going to be able to keep your natural grip style constantly. What I mean by that is that if you're using traditional grip tape or no grip tape at all, what happens is that whenever you flick your mouse or readjust your mouse, so depending on your sensitivity and that kind of stuff, your grip will shift ever so slightly over and over and over again. Now, while this may not be a huge issue in the short term, in long term, it does aid to a little bit of inconsistency in terms of how you aim, specifically depending on what game you're playing. I know personally these were really helpful with Valorant, where it's a very high flicking game, and the ability to kind of anchor your hands onto your mouse were a huge help. But I'll go a little more a little bit later. But you can use the SoSpacer grips to kind of hold your natural grip style in a consistent spot for as long as you keep the grips on your mouse, which is a really helpful thing in long term and short term as well. Now, of course, there are obviously ergonomic benefits to that, to keeping your hand in a comfortable shape all the time, and you're not straining your hands to hold the mouse in a specific area because you readjust, you can't hold something properly. It's also really nice for a lot of mice that don't have really good coatings, because that is another huge thing as well. I forgot to mention earlier that some mice just have really shitty coating. It happens. Like, there are some mice that are just unusable because of their bad coating, and you can't get grip tape for them. Off the top of my head, I remember this was the situation when I reviewed the Death Adder V3 Pro, because the Death Adder V3 Pro's coating was so bad, I had to order 2 sets of grip tape from Lethal Gaming Gear in order to actually even use the mouse, which was quite frustrating. But having the SoSpacer grips would have completely negated that issue, which would have been nice to have back there. Even just for the ergonomics of it, I recommend them based off of that. But on top of that, the ability to have a consistent grip is huge, especially for tack shooters, and keeping a consistent grip like that is massive. It really helps with that as well. That will also help with your aim consistency just overall. Personally, I do struggle with static quite a bit because of my grip not being consistent, and it messes me up quite a bit. But with the SoSpacer grips, I was able to anchor my hand into a set space every single time, where my hand wasn't moving around all the time. My static aim got significantly better. But overall, there's a lot of really cool benefits to the SoSpacers over traditional grip tape. And yes, while traditional grip tape does have its benefits, it doesn't help with with sweat, and it doesn't help with long-term viability as well, because again, if you have grip tape and your hands are really sweaty, you're going to start slipping all over the place. The SoSpacer grips don't have that problem. Grip tape will wear out over time. I know the Pulsar super tape, is that what it's called? I forget what it's called. Whatever, the Pulsar super grip tape, that stuff is super sticky for the first like 4 days, and then after that it just goes to nothing and you can't grip it anymore. Whereas the SoSpacers, because they're more of an anchor rather than an actual sticky thing for you to stick your hands on, they have a lot more longevity, so you're not going to be replacing your mouse tape every 2 months or something like that. So overall, there's a lot of benefits to having them, but let's go ahead and talk about how to use them and how they work with different grips. All right, now there is a video on SoSpacer's Twitter that they made showing you kind of a rough guideline of how to use their grips, but I figured I'd go over today and just kind of explain to you how I use them in my cases here. So for my Cont M3 Mini here, this is the mouse I did claw and fingertip testing on, and as a person who does not play a lot of fingertip, and well, actually, sorry, correction, as a person who literally can't play fingertip for a lot of the time due to my hands and just my grip style, the SoSpacer grips actually made it very feasible for me to fingertip grip the Cont M3 Mini here, which is really nice because it's actually able to do a little more testing in terms of grip styles for multiple mice now, which is a huge plus in my opinion. But anyways, so what I did here is I basically just put 2 on the very end here. I didn't put any sides because the natural grips in the Cont M3 are actually pretty good, so I didn't bother putting them there. But in terms here, I could just having something where I could rest the edge of my hands on just so I don't slip off the end of the mouse was enough for me to use these things perfectly for fingertip, and it felt really good. I actually really enjoy fingertip aiming with this mouse in particular, which has been nice. And then for claw grip stuff, as you guys saw when I did my review of the HyperX Pulsar Haste 2, I had 6 SoSpacer grips on that one as well. That one I used claw, and I tried to just anchor my hands into the same position over and over and over again, and it was very, very helpful. And I have really big hands. I have 6.5 inch by 4.5 inch hands. I shouldn't be able to comfortably grip small mice like the Cont M3 Mini or the HyperX Pulsar Haste 2 because they are quite small, but I was able to comfortably claw grip those, no problems. And having the consistent grip and also having the consistent grip and having the ability to anchor my hands into a comfortable grip over and over again really helped strain issues, because I often have strain issues when I'm using mice that are very small. Tiny mice and my hands don't mix too well, but with the SoSpacer grips, I was able to comfortably anchor them very easily. And then of course for palm and a little more claw testing, I did my Razor Death Adder V3 here. I did the style where I had 2 on the side and 2 on the top again. I just kind of similar to how I did with the Pulsar Haste 2, but this also really helped in terms of using just keeping a consistent grip. Now I will say, if you're a palm player, these won't be as effective for palm because again, you're controlling a lot of the movements with the base of your palm. That's your anchor point, quote unquote, and your fingers are secondary, whereas claw and fingertip, obviously your hands or your fingertips are going to be the primary point of contact. It was still nice to kind of at least still have something to kind of slot my fingers into. It did help quite a bit, but overall, like, you could use these in pretty much any way you want. If I go back to the Cont M3 here, you can see on the bottom, like, you could even put like little anchors down to the bottom and have them facing downwards, so you can kind of sit your hands into them. You can have 2 of them on the side and kind of make like a little slot there. You can have 2 of them on the top. You can do literally whatever you want with these things, which is so nice because they're so versatile in how they work, which is really cool. And again, as I mentioned before, traditional grip tape does suffer with sweat and that kind of stuff because once it gets sweaty, your hands get slippery and it's harder to hold on to things. This doesn't happen with the SoSpacer grips because it's a physical anchor that you kind of have to get your hand over, so it takes a lot for you to actually slip your hand off of the mouse depending on how you grip them and how you install them. Now, in terms of the installation process, of course, you can watch the video SoSpacer put out on their Twitter to find some basic information. What I found really helpful is that I highly recommend not just going and putting them on where you think you're going to grip. That's a mistake I made when I first tried to put these on. Instead, it's much better for you to warm up in Kovacs or a game that's aim intensive, so you can get your hand into your natural grip spot, and then once you're warmed up and you feel like you have a comfortable natural grip on your mouse, then you should put them on. Don't put them on beforehand. It's very important that you mold your hand to your mouse and get to your comfortable grip before you put them on. That's very, very, very important. Once they're on, they feel amazing. The in-game consistency is insane. As I mentioned before, action shooters like Valorant, I saw a massive difference in performance because again, I don't have to death grip my mouse in order to keep my mouse from going too far. It's a much more natural grip and it gives you so much more control over what you're doing, because if you're tensing your hand up trying to hold your mouse, it's going to be a lot harder for you to make micro adjustments, which makes static and that kind of stuff significantly harder. These grips are like night and day difference. Again, like, they made a huge difference in my performance. Like, I cannot explain to you how much of a difference these made. And I know I don't sound particularly unbiased right now, especially because this was a sponsored product, but I will genuinely say these are truly one of the most unique products I think I've ever used, and they make a massive difference in your overall performance. I would recommend these enough based off just the ergonomic changes of not having to strain as much of your hand to tension to hold your mouse, and just having a more natural grip style alone is enough for these, in my opinion. But the added benefit is that the consistency and everything else about them just make them such a unique and such an interesting product that I wholeheartedly recommend these. These are easily going to be getting the mel0n seal of approval. These are the Like literally, these are the best grips I think I've ever used in my life, and it's gonna be pretty hard to knock these out of the top spot for me, because I'm getting so many benefits of using this, specifically from the ergonomics and the less hand strain, all that stuff, and the ability to comfortably hold all these different mice. I'm able to use a bunch of mice that I haven't been able to use in years because they have bad coatings. It's so nice. I highly recommend you guys check out your local distributors, check out SoSpacer's website, and see if you can get a set for yourself and try them out, because they are truly one of the best sets of grip tapes you will ever use in your life. That's pretty much all I have for that today. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. It's a bit of a different video from what I normally do on the channel, but I do appreciate it. If you want to watch another video, why don't you check out my review of the Cont M3 Mini, a surprisingly solid mouse, but it just misses the mark ever so slightly. But if you want to go check that out, I'll have that linked up on the screen here for you if you want to go check that out. And if you enjoyed the video, please consider subbing to the channel. I greatly appreciate it, and I'll have definitely more reviews coming up very shortly. But again, thank you very much to SoSpacer for sending these out for review. These are really awesome. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.